Hey everyone, what if I told you that you could grab a massive, critically acclaimed, 100-hour-plus open-world adventure for an absolutely unbelievable price? We're talking about Assassin's Creed Origins, which just went on a crazy sale. But the big question is, can your PC actually run it well today, in 2025? Let's dive in and find out. I mean, just look at this. $6. That was the price during a recent 90% off Steam sale. That is less than a cup of coffee for a game that could literally keep you busy for weeks. And hey, even if you missed that specific sale, this game gets deep discounts all the time, which is exactly why we're talking about it now. And look, this is not some throwaway bargain bin game. Our source for this breakdown, the channel Random Gaming in HD, totally loves it. And honestly, so do I. The revamped RPG gameplay, the absolutely stunning recreation of ancient Egypt, it's just phenomenal. It is a top-tier game, which makes that $6 price tag just feel kind of insane. Okay, but here's the thing. The game came out way back in October of 2017, and in the world of PC gaming, that's practically a different geological era. So the real question is, how does a game from back then actually perform on the huge range of PCs that we're all using today? Now, what's really important to remember here is that Origins was released before all the modern magic tricks we rely on now. Stuff like DLSS or FSR that use AI to boost your frame rates. This game has none of that. We are running on pure, raw hardware power, which makes these benchmarks we're about to do absolutely essential. So first up in the gauntlet, we're going to test some dedicated graphics cards. We've got everything from an old champ to some modern budget contenders. This is going to give us a really solid idea of what you can expect if you have a proper gaming GPU in your rig. Our first challenger is the NVIDIA GTX 980. Now, back in 2014, this thing was an absolute monster, a top-of-the-line card. Today, you can find one used for under $50. It's the perfect test to see if older, once powerful hardware can still hang. And you know what? The results are fantastic. We're at 1080p using the low preset, but, and this is key, we bumped the textures up to high and turned on volumetric clouds, and we're getting an average of 65 frames per second. But more importantly, look at those 1% lows. That's kind of your worst case scenario for frame drops. They're sitting at a super stable 56. That means the game just feels smooth. So the verdict? For a card that's a decade old, this is brilliant. It just goes to show how well this game is optimized. The experience is incredibly consistent. If you're putting together a super cheap gaming PC, a used GTX 980 is pretty much a perfect match for this game. All right, let's jump forward in time to a much more modern, but still very much budget, graphics card, the AMD RX 6500 XT. This 4GB card got let's say, a mixed reception when it launched. So how does it handle a slightly older game like Origins? Well, with the graphics cranked up to the high preset at 1080p, the 6500 XT is pushing out a really impressive average, nearly 80 frames per second. Now, on paper, that's a huge jump over the old GTX 980, and at much higher settings too. But, as we all know, averages don't always tell the whole story. Yeah, even though that average frame rate was higher, the actual feel of playing was less consistent. The source noted more stutters and hiccups. So while the number on the screen is bigger, the moment-to-moment gameplay felt a little less smooth. It's a classic trade-off, really. Okay, for our last dedicated card, we've got a real mainstream heavyweight from the last generation, the 8GB version of the NVIDIA RTX 3050. This is the kind of card that a ton of gamers have in their systems right now, so this is a big one. And yeah, it absolutely crushes it. Again, we're on the high preset at 1080p, and it's pulling an average of 85 frames per second. But the most important number there, the 1% lows are staying firmly above 60. That is the sweet spot for smooth gaming. The verdict here is super simple. It's a fantastic, buttery smooth experience. Even when you're in a huge fight with tons of enemies on screen, the performance just holds up beautifully. It really proves you do not need the latest and greatest hardware or any of that fancy upscaling tech to have an amazing time in this game. So, let's put that all together. But remember one really crucial thing here. We tested the GTX 980 on low settings, while the other two were on high. And as you can see, even on low, that old 980 really holds its own. The modern cards, of course, push those averages way higher on much prettier settings, with the RTX 3050 delivering the smoothest, most premium experience of the three. But what if you don't have a dedicated graphics card at all? What if you're on a laptop or a basic desktop? This is the ultimate challenge. Can Assassin's Creed Origins possibly run on integrated graphics? Let's find out. And wow, the results are just night and day. On an Intel UHD 730 iGPU, even at the absolute lowest settings, 720p with 50% resolution scale, it just couldn't stay above 30 FPS. It was a stuttery mess, basically unplayable. But on a low-end AMD Radeon 610M with the same settings, it actually managed to stay above 30 FPS. Now, it's not going to look pretty, but it is playable. That's a huge win for AMD's integrated chips here. Okay, so performance is obviously key, but the value you get with this game goes beyond just the main story. There's another really special feature that makes it worth grabbing, especially when it's this cheap. It's called the Discovery Tour. This mode literally strips out all the combat and quests and turns the entire breathtakingly detailed map of ancient Egypt into an interactive museum. You can just wander around freely or take these guided tours that teach you all about the landmarks, what daily life was like, the real history of it all. It's just a brilliant, super chill way to experience this incredible world. So, after putting it through the ringer, what's the final call on running Assassin's Creed Origins in 2025? Let's bring it all together. So here are the key takeaways. The game runs beautifully on old but powerful cards, making it perfect for those super budget PC builds. Modern budget cards like the RTX 3050 will give you a flawless, high frame rate experience. And incredibly, if you're on a laptop with a modern AMD integrated chip, you can actually play it. You just need to be careful if you're on an Intel iGPU because that's a much, much tougher sell. Which brings us right back to where we started. The performance is there for a huge range of hardware, the game itself is incredible, and the value is just off the charts. You're getting a massive RPG and an interactive museum all in one package, so really the only question left is the one you see on your screen.